stream working? Can't tell. Microphone. Oh, I think it is. I think we're good. Yes, okay. We're in business. Okay, let's see if it sticks. Let me get my code here. Make sure everything is working. When did my growth model get so long? I don't see anyone in here though. Oh, okay, I see one person in. Hey, Sithroll. Yes, we're back. Oh gosh, we had forest fires too. Interesting. Hey. Okay, let's give it a whirl. Kind of want to jump straight into the growth model again. Maybe I'll just run it and see how it goes. Probably need to go through and remind myself what all I had. So, right, everything down here was for the Python library, basically. Either printing out variables I was interested in, or plotting things out, or saving as CSVs. Yeah, I know. I know my corona hair. I haven't been able to get it cut. I haven't been any place public except walking in the green space nearby. I haven't done anything for 2 months. Somehow managed to get sick though. All right, so let's run it. Oh, that's right. Oh, I wonder. Here was our canopy growth. Okay, so anyone who was here last time will recall we had this issue where we ended up with divergence, long-term divergence. Okay, so here we have our forest fires kicking the canopy down, the average canopy height. Yeah, I'm going to have to look through. Okay, this is growth per capita. It's a little weird that it's so consistent. See the seasonal variation there. 6-month intervals. Okay, this is weird. Oh, right. Okay, I'd set some limits, I think. Yeah, good memory, Epic. But it looks like we had sorted that out at the very end. So this is let's see what we had. I think this was temperate forests. Let's see what we had set. If I can remember where we set that variable. Activate CSV. True. Temperate forest. Oh, that's right. I remember now. Probably just need to close some of this stuff. Keep us from getting too cluttered. Activate climate. Oh, that's right. I'd set an enumeration. Yeah, I'll have to go through all the code again and just remind myself where I was at. Because I remember, like, this is all stuff I was doing while I was in Charlotte. And then we'd kind of gotten to a decent point. Because we had added in natural disasters like fires and stuff like that. Right, you can see that in the... you can see where the fires are kicking in. And we'd gotten it pretty stable for temperate forests. You can see we have stable... Well, let's run it again just to make sure. At least I think this is temperate forest. Oh my god. I think this is temperate forest. Yeah, looks solid. So you can see the canopy tracks relative. It's not perfect. It's not exact, which is what we want. But it's roughly tracks one another, which is kind of what we want. And then we have per capita growth, not that important. And then we have, you can see where we have the large scale disturbance events. So you see grasses come swooping in the moment we have like a major fire. Right, and so as trees tank, interestingly our shrubs, which I think is what we want, are quite resistant to fire. And so they just kind of... Oh wait, no. That's conifers. Yeah, that's right. Conifers are most resistant. Right. Shrubs grow relatively... Yeah. Okay, I see. That's interesting. So... Let's make sure that we're dealing with temperate forest here. What did we check for? Okay, let's go through everything. Okay, activation, graph activation. Right, so this governs what graphs we want to activate when we run everything. This determines what CSVs are populated. Here we set our variables that we're interested in. Tune our water, tune the base values of our growth. Years of growth, 800. That's right. Because we wanted to see if we ended up with permanent extinction of a given type. 800 years is, I mean, it's not. Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about like long-term turnover of entire clades of animals and plants, it's not much time at all. In terms of intermediate disturbances, it definitely is a lot of time. Yeah, and we'll eventually have, and I need to even put this in now. I think we've made a list somewhere in here that we can check on. But we need, right, storms, windstorms, we need cold snaps. We need basically disturbance events for pretty much every locale. And then, of course, have disturbance events occasionally that wipe absolutely everything out. Yeah, what Peter said. Problem with 6K years is that the graph wouldn't show the details very well. Unless you had a better graphing library. Okay, so tall shrubs, tall conifers, right? Okay, so we started everything at 100, which is virtually nothing. Started the canopy height very low. If activate tile, where did I set this? This is embarrassing. Oh, duh. Activate climate equals temperate forest. Okay, so we're temperate forest. Let's scrunch this down a bit so we're not so cluttered. What we're going to need to do is test these other climates, because I know the disaster system currently works very funky with arid places currently. So. All right, so first we have our initial loop. We determine how many years we want. We govern that from up here, 800. Year equals, yeah, okay, plus 1. Okay, and then we have our 2 seasons. Better way to think of it's like 2 halves of the year. Seasonal rainfall, seasonal humidity, seasonal sunlight. Yeah, January complete. Okay, temperature, soil factor, available nutrient, water movement contribution, available water per capita. We have, unfortunately, some, the way that we're currently handling water movement is incomplete, is we need seasonal water movement, and right now they're both summed together. But that's an issue we have to resolve in, yeah, that's an issue that we're going to have to resolve in the main model. Total biomass. So you calculate total biomass. Conifer thirstiness, broadleaf thirstiness. Let's take a look. Where do we calculate that? Where do we? Oh, right. Okay, I remember. Right, so our different vegetation types were reacting differently to the amount of water that was available, I believe, right? And so if you have abundant water, then broadleaves tend to be happier. Conifers, right? Thirstiness was. Oh, that's right. We calculated thirstiness also based on. Right, so we took all of the biomass into account, not just the one that was sort of directly on the surface. So we had to include the height of the conifers too. Tall broadleaf height. Available water per capita, seasonal humidity, wind factor. I just want to get a grip on everything that was in the model. Available water per capita is... We'd already set this somewhere based on seasonal rainfall, water movement, permeability, water table. Okay. And then just some constant. And then we took that value, we considered seasonal humidity, wind factor, which plays into humidity. There's a little... If you don't have a lot of wind, then you have little micro humidity bubbles that can sort of exist around leaves that help retain water. And divide by talent. And, okay, right. Let's see. And then we considered grass, shrubs, conifers, and broadleaf thirstiness. Okay, cool. So after everyone gets to drink from the well, we know how much water we have remaining. Thirsty. Yeah. Okay, let's read our documentation here. Seasonal or stochastic wildfire drought. Okay, oh cool, here's our disturbances that we want. Seasonal or stochastic wildfire and drought. Extreme cold events, extreme wind events, extreme floods. Micro and macro parasite infestations, large herding animals and grasslands. In order to account for disturbances, we need some stochasticity in our key variables. We need variation in rainfall, we need variation in temperature, variation in wind. Extreme wildfires will be sparked by a mix of overgrowth and subsequent dry season. Extreme cold events will be moderate disturbances that have a flat effect. Unseasonal yearly warmth and cold climates can equal macro parasitic infestation. Okay, so the good thing is that this code will be simplified once we put it into the actual game, because a lot of the variation in the variables Calandial will be managing. And right now I have all of this extra random stuff going on to do that for me. I'm picking up where I left off, chap. Twitch app. Chap. I like chap. I'm going to call you chap. I think I came to that conclusion last time, too. Yeah, so what happened was COVID, obviously. So if you recall, I had like 3 weeks finally when I had settled in Charlotte, and things were going good, and I sort of had the headspace to work on songs again. But then, of course, COVID came along. The facility I worked at was shut down, and I was like, well, why stay in Charlotte? I might as well go back to Florida. Of course, the only problem was my kids were out of school. And so I'm working from home for Duke and dealing with the kids and dealing generally just with the stress and anxiety of all that crap. And yeah. So anyway, that's what happened to me. But now I feel like things... And I was right as I was going back to Florida, my manager at work decided to plop me on a project that was not going well. It was extremely stressful. I was like fantasizing about quitting my job and just working on songs, but no, not in the middle of a recession that's about to happen. So anyway, we have turns, fires on. We currently have fires on. Available water per capita. Yeah, okay, so if our available water per capita falls below this point, we calculate a water deficiency severity, and that allows us to calculate the severity of our wildfire. Okay, cool. And then we set... then we have, right, the innate resistance of different tree types. Yeah, I know. We're definitely going to have pandemics, especially after COVID. Modified resistance was based on what? It was based on modified leaf fire resistance times... I'm trying to remember why we did this. Oh, that's right, because we wanted the ability of that resistance to possibly be overwhelmed in certain circumstances. Then we had fire intensity. If conifer fire resistance is greater than fire intensity. Right, then we have primary casualties and secondary source. So like the casualties you take as a result of sort of so depending on how intense the fire is, if it doesn't meet your conifer resistance, then you take a few casualties, but not a whole lot. If it overwhelms your resistance, then anything on above your resistance is severe casualties. I think if we look at let's see. I like how there's actually, in this case, there's a bit of turnover here. You can see. So you can see it here, and most of the time, let's see. That's cool. So if you go long enough without disaster, looks like broadleafs can get taller, but then after a severe disaster, interesting. No, anyway, it's not really what I was wanting to look at. Interesting. All right, here we have a super severe fire. Yeah, you can see in most of these cases, whenever there's a severe fire, conifers take a much smaller... Well, in fires in general, conifers take a much smaller hit. right here, you can see when this fire occurred, broadleafs lost 3 or 4 times as much. Okay. Those were the control variables I mentioned. That's how you implement it, yes. Yeah, broadleafs to win out in ideal conditions, while conifers would be more resilient. You did this by increasing the fire resistance of conifers while increasing the growth of broadleafs. Yep. Yeah, cool. I'm trying to remember this was the most recent thing I did, and I think I forgot about it. Maybe we can refresh my memory. Let's run it again. Holy shit. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, so here's the canopy height. We had apparently a catastrophic fire, and you can see how broadleaves just were annihilated. Oh, there's that fire. Grasses just took over. Well, that's good. We do want those once in a century fires or whatever. But this was 1800 years. But I mean, we had some other pretty severe ones too. So. So the question is, remember how we had an issue where long term you had one tree went out over another? I'm trying to remember. I set some baseline, some local niche variable, I think. I'm not entirely sure though. Let's see. So this is all of our natural disaster stuff. So I don't think we tuned anything in natural disasters necessarily to create that equilibrium. Maybe we did. I don't know. Let's see. Grass CO2. So here's where we calculate all the growth factors. Desiccation factor. I'm not sure we ended up using you. Oh, we never did plug in all of the extra tertiary and secondary factors, which we'll need to do. Here we have all of our crowding. Well, that's the thing, Obi, Toby. At one point, that is what happened in our model. Either in a given ecosystem, either broadleaves or conifers would eventually completely displace the others. But in the real world, that typically doesn't happen. I mean, even in the most coniferous forests, you often have some broadleaves somewhere. Although not in extreme climates. Here we go. Niche saturation. That's right. Here it is. So we have little local niche. So the more a broadleaf or conifer dominates, the harder it is to then displace the next. So let's say broadleaves are dominating in an area. As they expand, it gets harder and harder and harder to displace conifers, because you can presume within any given tile you have micro variations that are more favorable to one or the other, right? We can try that epic, but I think it won't because we have this niche factor. So, for instance, let me give you an example. Or are we in Turkey somewhere? Yes. Okay. So, this is like personal life stuff. See if I can find what I'm talking about. Well, never mind. There was this place I used to walk every day. And most of the trees were broadleaves, but you had a little area where you had very compacted clay soils, which prevented water from penetrating the soils. And so as a result, you had this little area that was completely and utterly dominated by conifers, right? Even though the general area was broadleaf specific. Right. So let's say we want to go ahead and crank our model. I mean, because 800 years is reasonably long. God damn fly, die fucker. Okay, so let's go. I don't even know how the model will react to 3000s. Let's try. Okay. Yeah, so that's fascinating. I'm glad someone suggested that we do this. This is really cool. Whoever mentioned sort of the species turnover concept over a length, I think it was Peter. You can see how we actually have, over very long periods of time, natural variation in long-term abundance of different plant types. Oh, is it because we had this extreme event, maybe? I don't know. That's interesting. Okay. No, yeah, you can see, so for the first thousand or so years, conifers were advancing, and then they declined. And they advanced, and they were doing pretty good. Broadleafs, kind of, for whatever reason, they seem to have been. Yeah, that's really cool. Let's run it again, see if we get different results. This is the kind of variation we want in a complex model. Let's see. Yeah, so it's different this time. What's really interesting here now is there's never a point really where conifers have parity. I mean, for a little bit, for a long period of time, they had some parity here with broadleaves. It's fun. Yeah. And then you have this little period in here where you have a lengthy period where you have a mixed forest. It's kind of fun to see where, like, the super extreme events occurred. The succession, you can see, is fairly quick, the rebounds. Yeah, 6 month intervals. Okay. Okay, that's interesting. Tune it back. Yeah, what I'm going to have to do at some point for world generation's sake, I don't think we can start the generation from scratch. I think what we're going to need to do is put in sort of ballpark values for different biomass and canopy and stuff like that. Because I don't want to have to run the model for 200 years or something just to get to sort of a quasi-stable state. Hey, crouching lemur. Yeah, okay. That's a cool fire. Okay, that's a pretty big fire too. So how long did it take? It took maybe... So this mega fire took maybe... we could look at this in the CSV, but we can kind of tell that it took about maybe 30 or 40 years for the forest to fully recover. And of course it got to a point again where it was prime time for a fire. What's interesting is you can see, anytime we have these super fires, you can see there's a much bigger gap between fire times, because now you've gotten rid of most of the kindling that's built up. So even if you have a dry season, you don't get as much rainfall, the demand for water is a lot lower. So. Oh, the burn time. Yeah, but when you're not dealing with an entertainment product, you have a lot different, very different priorities. Okay, so cool. So it's working pretty good. Let's continue through to make sure we're on the right track. So this was all of our natural disaster stuff. We'll want to add in other natural disasters too. We'll want to add in the macro parasites, storms, winds, and then ice. Wildfires just happen to be sort of the most volatile. So the hardest is basically out of the way. Alright, so this is all of we were calculating the limiting nutrients, which we also need to plug into the model. Right now we only have a growth rate based on the limiting factor, but not sort of the extra secondary factors, which will end up being really important when it comes to the resiliency of ecosystems when, civilized folks show up and start straining them. So you can actually have a really nice forest, which cosmetically looks the same on very different types of land with different fertility values. But once you cut them down, how quickly they bounce back depends on those secondary and tertiary factors. Okay, so here's all of our net growth. Displacements. I guess we're good. So here's a little biomass after shrubs, biomass after conifers. Okay. Alright, so now this is the part I'm scared about. Let's tune this back a little bit so we can see with some more granularity. We need to change the ecosystem we're dealing with. Let's look at our different enumeration class. Okay. So let's try something that... Boreal forest. Let's see what our values were for a boreal forest. Permeability, mineral nutrient density. Let's compare it to temperate. Mineral nutrient density is higher in temperate. Permeability is more favorable. Let's rainfall, humidity. Boreal forest is kind of... Is this really a boreal forest though? Hold on a minute. Something doesn't smell right here. Okay, so with a temperate forest, this part of the year has all of the sunlight. It also has favorable temperature during that time of year, so you have one big growing season. What's weird though is, so here we have a lot of sunlight in July. Then we have fairly favorable temperatures too. I guess the difference is we have pretty extreme negative temperatures. This doesn't seem like a boreal forest though. It seems like it still gets too much sunlight maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I messed it up. Oops. Alright, let's go ahead and set the climate we're interested in. See what happens. Yeah, that is true. I'm trying to determine. So, boreal forests are primarily Ortega, right? Are primarily coniferous. So let's see what we actually end up with. Broadleaves are still dominating, right? So, but that's, I mean, the problem is I'm looking at the two categories, and their actual values look very similar, which is a problem, right? So, similar rainfall, similar sunlight during the grow season. Maybe I just need to generate a world. I don't know. Let's see. Here. I know there are some broadleafs in the taiga, but right. Generally for okay, well, let's use consistent terminology. I mean, it's like the same. Okay. This biome characterized by coniferous forests consisting mostly of pines, spruces, and larches. Taiga or boreal forest is the world's largest land biome. Although the taiga is dominated by coniferous forests, some broadleaf trees also occur. So, the result we want is not, to summarize, the result we want is not to have dominance. Hold on. Did I close it all? I guess I did. Is to have dominant broadleaves. But it may be that we haven't properly factored in how those broadleaves react to cold snaps. So maybe that's the issue we need to sort out right now. Right. It's probably some other factor we need to consider. Yeah, poor conifers are just annihilated. They're just like practically nothing. It's odd. I wonder why that is. Well, hold on a minute. I'll be right back. Okay. I mean, yeah, you see, yeah, they do so bad that they even her canopy is short. I feel like something else is missing though. Like, so I guess maybe we add in the cold snaps and see if that does the trick. I don't know. Because how do they necessarily rely on extreme winter, right? But, so also, I still think that's weird though. Let's make sure we have the right information for the tile. Because here's the thing. Summers in boreal forests versus temperate forests should also still be cooler, right? So one of the things that constrains growth is that you have a lower soil temperature in the taiga. And so therefore there's not as much of an abundance as mineral nutrients, and conifers do better in that condition. Because with a colder soil temperature, you have less going on in the microbiome of the soil, right? Temperate is a specific climate term. Here, let me see something. It would be nice to see. No, I'm not interested in global warming at the moment. Let's see. No. Just give me something. That's an interesting point, Destiny, because you won't have permafrost. You won't have sort of elements of permafrost in the soil when it comes to temperate forests, and so, yeah, that kind of makes sense. You can annihilate the microbiome in boreal forests. So that may be that's a really good point. That could be the way that we manage the situation, because right now you see soil temperature not being so bad in the summer, but if soil temperature is freezing in the winter, then you don't have 50 years worth of robust soil microbiome. Yeah, you don't have your earthworms have been killed off. You know, your the various arthropods that live in the soil are killed off. Right. But I mean, Destiny, what you're describing is even more pronounced in the tundra, which is why you don't have like hardly any trees in the tundra. But I can see how that could play a role in boreal forests as well. So yeah, why don't we try that? Let's see if that does the trick for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in a contingency before we even worry about cold snaps. This is why we stream, so people have ideas. Let's see. So what we're going to want to amend here is the limiting factor, right? So nutrient in particular. We want to modify, if we had a cold winter, we want to modify the mineral nutrients in the summer as well, due to the damage to the soil's microbiome. And that would be governed by temperature soil factor. Have have we considered seasonal variation in No, let's not worry about that yet. Temperature, soil factor. Oh, hey, Gutsta. Yeah, long time no see. To you too. Well, actually, no, I think you were here relatively recently, but haven't been as involved as early days. Should we intervene? How should we modify this? Well, it would be nice to gen a world and click around a little bit. We're working out vegetation at the moment. Hold on a minute. Let me see if Calandial is available.
What's that?
Hey, real quick, did you change? Are we working with a new Unity version as of 2 months?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The latest one.
Okay, hold on. Let me make sure I get the right version so I don't end up messing something up. Hold on. Unity. Okay. So I guess what version was it?
The latest one, 2019.3.
Point 3. So I have 2019.3.0 F6.
Yeah, we want F12 or something like that. You need to remember it from the.
Okay. And I have to update Unity Hub too.
Mm-hmm.
And then Unity Hub will be like, oh, your PC drivers are out of date. You'll have to install those too. And then when I go to install those, the drivers will be like, oh no, your Windows version needs to be updated.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so Unity 2019.3.12 F1.
Yes, sounds about right.
I forget. Were there any?
Wait, point 3. Point 3, right?
Point 3. Yeah. Hold on a second.
Mm-hmm.
Here, let me share screen with you real quick.
Yes, this one. Mm-hmm.
That's yeah. Okay. Were there any modules other than what the usual default? Okay.
So, am I needed for anything else?
I think we should be good. Let me make sure I can just generate worlds properly.
You will need to. Also, you want to use the Unity.
I'll need the what?
So you want to work in Unity then?
Yeah. So I just want to. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying.
Okay. Yeah. So what we're doing right now. By the way, where we're messing with the growth model, but I'm wondering where were you again with all of the like disturbance events?
It's finished more.
Okay, so basically,
yeah.
so if I understand correctly, basically you transmit changes in tile conditions, right? So
Sorry.
you basically create variation in tile conditions for different for the different seasons and everything over certain periods of time?
Every game pick there is a chance for a special weather event to occur, and when they do occur, they kind of spread out, so it's not just a single climate cell.
Okay.
And over time, they decay, and it just not.
Okay.
So that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, right now I'm kind of balancing the model around my own sort of ghetto rigged version. So I'll probably retune it, once it's actually in the game. Good God, how long is this gonna take? All right, well anyway, we should be good. I'll try running it in a bit. I'm not sure how long it's gonna take to update, so I'll let you be free. Be free.
Alrighty. See you later.
All right, I'll let you know if I need anything else. Thanks. Okay, so while that is downloading forever, what can we do in the meantime? So let me write down my approximate objective. What we want to do is evaluate the cold season weather conditions and see if it informs soil health during warm seasons, particularly as it pertains to boreal forests, tundra. Maybe a good idea to aim for anything below, well, I guess anything below freezing. Anything below -5. Oh, cool. Let's see. Gaps in forest rise from disturbances often result from large dying trees. This is pretty cool, but I can tell already that this is going to be focusing on a sort of, on a meter by meter level as opposed to, kilometer by kilometer level. So it could be interesting. Yeah, tree mortality. Stuff like tree mortality is mostly inferred in our model, obviously. Tree growth. Tree biomass growth is determined by physiological based tree carbon balance. It includes leaf photosynthesis. One thing we will want to do is we'll want to come up with a rough calculation of biomass death and decay to determine our carbon level. Whoa, something was going on back there. Really? First, tree growth is mainly driven by light. Large trees in a patch receive most of the radiation. Yeah, this is mostly sort of like patch ecology stuff, which you can see that in our model from really high, but not really something we'd be taking into consideration since we're at a much higher level. Linking forest modeling and remote sensing. Yeah, interesting though. Yeah, you can see they're looking on a tree by tree basis, which is pretty cool. Okay. Jesus. Yes, finally. Okay, I already updated the project. Let's see if we can general world. Because I'd like to click around a bit and make sure we have the right boreal conditions. This is going to take a while. I guess I could just grab an older build and just work with that, since this is taking forever. Well, anyway, while it's doing that, maybe a good idea is to aim for anything below -5. But then again, we look at our boreal value, and it looks like we had -8, which isn't that low. I don't think it's going to be enough to influence. I wonder what the limiting factor is actually in this case with the boreal forest. As if the limiting factor isn't even nutrients. So for instance, you look here, we see our limiting, we have roughly similar mineral nutrient values too. Why is that? It's annoying. Oh, that's mineral nutrient density, not the actual value of the nutrients. Could be that the problem here is that mineral nutrient density isn't what is governing growth. I guess we're gonna have to try. Right, because in summer, no, it probably is what's governing growth, but the problem is summer temperatures are high enough that, they have minimal influence on how productive the soil is. It's roughly the same. Summer is roughly as hot as in temperate forest. It's just that cold season that's the issue. Yeah, so we need to wreck the microbiome. That's going to be our solution. Oh, crikey. What? I don't even know what scene we're in. Oh, the right scene, apparently. Config. I'm confused. Huh. Okay, what happens to the load from file? Option. Alright, looks like we're crashing too. Yeah, okay. Let me just find an older build. Hopefully I didn't delete it. But I just would like to get something. I'll make the loads default.bin beaver from inside streaming SS cache. I'm not gonna mess with that right now. Let's see if I can find. Oh my goodness, I need to free up some space. Or get a bigger hard drive. Oh, this works. orc illustration. Okay, we're stuck. Probably because I'm genning with an older file. No, that doesn't make any sense. Should work. Man, let me try with veg test. Guess let's just generate a world from scratch. Whatever. Well, I guess we can implement the logic at least. I guess before we even get into fires, temperature soul factor is what we're interested in. So we need like a winter depression factor. This should be pretty easy to do, actually. Yeah, let's just add in the winter depression factor. Why is this taking so long? Reading planet data. Okay, never mind, it's fine. Lunar depression factor. I guess first off, let's just see which value is lower. So if temp gens is less than temp joules, otherwise winter depression factor equals temp joules. What are you complaining about? But then we want to make sure that winter depression factor is less than 0. Oh. Actually, if it's greater than 0, winter depression factor is just going to be a multiplier of 1, so it's not going to have any influence further on the mineral nutrients that are available in the soil. Okay. Oh, let's check on our world. Pretty... some Copen info here. That's kind of cool that you have a little continental climate band in there. Anyway. Although, is that supposed to happen? This is a better example, I think. Whoa, our glacier took over. Let's find a place where glaciers have not taken over. Holy shit. Talk about glacial takeover. Something, oh no, this is all water, right? Oh, thank you for the sub. Yeah, this is a good planet. The main issue is that there's just a lot of land near the poles. So you basically, what it would be like if Greenland were connected to, or Greenland and Antarctica were connected to major continents, right? Batkins, why is that so familiar? Batkins, you were gamed with you or something? If Greenland was connected to the Earth. Oh, it is Captain. Okay, yeah. Alright, cool. If Greenland were connected to North American... Well, it is connected... Well, okay. Let me explain myself here. Oops, there's... If it were formally connected to North America, and there wasn't a bunch of water, you would expect probably for all that ice, instead of sliding into the ocean and melting, it would just keep sliding on land, right? You'd have bigger ice caps. What I'm trying to say is I need another cup of coffee. Okay, so what did I come here to do? I came here to examine temperatures. Right, terrain type Tega. What is our... Okay, there's our humidity, temperature. What? That's interesting. Oh. Weird. Is this? Hold on a minute. Really? Is that it in the Tega? -3 degrees Celsius? Is there like a giant mountain here or something? No. Why is it so cold? Are the glaciers having some influence there or something? There's a spaceship under Greenland. Now, something's a little... Okay, so what do we have in our temperate zones? Okay, so coldest gets... That seems reasonable. -26? That can't be. There's no way. That may... Maybe why we maybe we have too many glaciers. Maybe we have abnormally low temperature. Okay, alright, so average annual temperature ranges from about -10 in Antarctica, coast, makes sense, to -60 at the highest parts of the interior. Okay, so let's find some place that's not some crazy high altitude, like over here. This is probably a not too unreasonable response to very high elevation. So let's actually let's check the coast. So along the coast we have a nice little warmer band because coast gonna coast. It's still though, Jesus Christ. Cold. -19? What's the latitude? I mean, hold on a second. Average winter temperature in tundra. Come on, we can do better than you. The Arctic tundra, where the average temperature is. Trying to understand whether I have the right values for boreal forests. So on our growth model, we have about -8 degrees Celsius. I'm trying to understand whether I have the right values. And our Tega should kind of be in this range here. So I mean, and even all the way up here, we have -22, -20, like -20 in the winter, Celsius, all the way up here. But it is interior to the continent, so yeah, I don't know. I don't really know. Okay, so let's compare, right? So we have temperature -23 in the winter, latitude 58. Let's see where that is, right? So let's say, okay, so here. Well, you know what? Maybe it is accurate, because this is like, but it would be like here, right? Right around here. Yeah, let's go hang out in Russia. Let's see. Yeah, so this would kind of be the equivalent. I wish we had a average temperature overlay. So like in here, this is about what we'd expect to be looking at. So let's check Kirov. Yeah, I was just trying to go for something interior. That can't be. Is this today? Yeah. No, December. Doesn't seem that cold. It seems like things are getting really... No, but I mean we can convert. I don't see it in. I mean, we're based, 0 degrees Fahrenheit is. We could see the disparity here regardless of units. It's like not nearly as cold as what we have in the simulation. Yeah. What was it? Was it negative 30 or was it? See, min, max, monthly mean, minimum over the year in January. Yeah, it could. What was it? Negative 30 that we had, or was it negative 23? Yeah, I guess maybe it works. In Sinatra GG, it's a compromise. Yeah, for some reason but I guess it doesn't even over here, it's not necessarily, I guess it's about right. Slightly the cold words. I think it's relatively accurate. It really depends on whether we're checking near the coast or not, too. Right, so you can see we're roughly on the same latitude here, but let's check here. We have a temperature of 0, winter temperature, average temperature of 0.4. But then you get inland away from the coast and it's negative 14. So it really depends whether you're getting that nice warm coastal, those nice warm coastal conditions. Alright, so I think maybe we're good. I think we're fine. Which is good because that gives us more range when we it also means that in winter, if you've got superficial temperatures of like negative 24, like you're gonna have some permafrost, you're gonna have some disruption of the soil microbiome. So that's good news for us. Oh yeah, let's check for mountains to make sure we hadn't misjudged. Where are we? Okay, it was here. Nope, no mountains. We checked here and we checked here. That's cool how there's glacial melt feeding into the river. Yeah, let's see. Let me get back to the model. Okay, so we can... So we can actually, yeah, -5 is when we can start to have disruptions. Well, let's see, actually. Let's poke around in our Copen climate again. How far down do we go? -7. Okay, so yeah, temperate range will end up being around -5. So anything over -5 winter is going to kind of be temperate. So we can start at -5 where we really start to see the effects. Consider too that's not soil temperature, right? Soil is somewhat insulated, so we can have the effects start to take place at -5-ish. Yikes. That's interesting. How high is this mountain? Very. Okay. Cool. So let's crank down the volume a little bit. It's loud. I like the music, but too loud. So let's go back to our winter depression factor. Yeah, and that's, you can definitely, God, I love that cloud effect. We haven't really got the colors right yet, but it still looks pretty cool. Yeah, the climate should be interesting. Oh, that's fascinating. Wow. This mountain is causing a massive rain shadow, it looks like. Yeah, you can see you have continental climate here, you have some rainfall, and then what looks like a giant rain shadow. It's pretty cool. Yeah, the mountain glaciers, that's kind of screwy. I feel like there shouldn't be enough rainfall up here. The temperature is extremely low because the altitude is so high, but you should have more of like a muted effect. What is rainfall up there? Yeah, you barely have any rainfall up there, so we'll have to fix that later. There should be some snow peaks. But yeah, you can see we're basically, well, it's sort of on the, so it's sort of like xeric desert conditions. It's kind of cool though, is you have little lakes in the desert, little oases from glacial melt, which is kind of cool. But I guess what you also have to consider in this case is you have basically, right, you have rainfall here. What's happening, I think, is it's hitting the mountain, and some of the rain, and you have some rainfall, but it gets so tall that you also have ice forming up here too. So I mean, it's probably a little exaggerated, but it's still kind of cool. I think it's somewhat legitimate. Anyway, let's get back to what we were working on here. So winter depression factor, figure out which is the lowest factor. So if greater than -5, we just set it to 1. Otherwise, we take the it depends, Centra. I mean, once ecology is done and biomes are in, then that's when we'll actually sort of have hunter-gatherer mechanics, right? And what's really cool is we can, because of all the complexity that we have in game, we can actually have different cultures of hunter-gatherers with different kinds of subsistence. So theoretically, you can have, you know, sedentary hunter-gatherers that tend to do a lot of foraging, who manage the land and stuff like that. But then they can be competing for the same land that that some hunters, primary hunters might like, you know. But it might not necessarily have the same value to both of them. So there's some interesting kind of dynamics there that can translate to gameplay features. You know, and you could be a hunter-gatherer chasing after the herds or something like that. Oh, cool, Centra. Yeah, sure. Have I met you before, or did you just show up? Go back through the Discord real quick. Are you one of the new people? A whole lot of new people breezed in. Trying to figure out if you're one of them. But yeah, it's right now we're at a point where, you know, I can't quit my day job yet to work on songs, but it's like, it's getting to a point where we can conceivably make a living off of it in a year or two, hopefully. And at that point, that's when things really pick up. Alright, so we're setting our winter depression factor threshold at -5. How do we want to do this? What if... I got an idea. Set it at 0. It'll be easy that way. Oh, that's right. I thought your name looked familiar. Right. Cool. Winter depression factor. So theoretically, we want to have a point. We want to have a point where we shut down all soil function. Where do we want that to be, though? What's annoying is everything... This is not a very good world to determine this because... Well, maybe this is a good place. Oh, how cool. That's so cool. We have a little... what a cool little geographic quirk. You have all of this Arctic, and then you have this little temperate area that's near the coast, away from all the ice. That's cute. Little pocket. It doesn't Cithril. It just is. It's much less pronounced. That's the thing. And that's why I was thinking like we. That's why I was thinking like we wanted the effect to start. Like I was thinking we might want the effect to start a bit colder. I don't know. But soil temperature does respond to surficial temperature. It's just slower. And so by the time you get to summer, or by the time you get to, the end of winter, then you find then it's gotten to a point where it's cooled down enough to slow down activity. And yeah. And I can tell you as a scuba diver, even water temperatures throughout the year. I mean, it's not if it's 30 degrees outside temporarily in Florida, yeah, the water temperature's not 40, but it is definitely colder if you've been through the entire winter, because it's actually more favorable to go snorkeling or scuba diving in December than it is to go in like April, because it's been cooling down all winter. Yeah, anyway. depression factor. What do we want to settle on? When do we want to shut everything down? That was the question we wanted to answer. Oh yeah, and then I got distracted because I saw that cool little pocket. Okay. I would say -30 seems like the point where we would shut down soil temp, or we would, shut down like the soil microbiome. Maybe. So we want to recalculate depression factor. Right now we just have the temperature. So divided by 30. Let's take an example. Let's say we have -25. Negative. Why do you say that, Cithril? So -30 is what we would consider 100% permafrost, if that makes sense. So that's like what, if your winter temperature, that's when winter temperatures basically sabotage summer soil temperature. Anyway, -25, 30. What's the example that you're thinking of, Epic? And keep in mind that, like, this represents, in a given season, severely depressing mineral nutrients in the summer as a result of damage to the microbiome, right? Where are you thinking specifically, Epic Scissors? So, was that like what? Was that like for a season? Okay, well, it sounds like it's roughly on track with what we're aiming for, because remember, we want at a temperature like -20 with the current model, that would depress mineral nutrients by 2/3, and so you could still have lots of conifers in that case theoretically, but you wouldn't have it would squeeze out broadleaves. So let's try that. So this is going to effectively be a multiplier. Oops. Alright, winter depression factor. Oops. Let's just give it some space here. enter depression factor. You are a thing. You exist. Do I need to save or something? Did I miss my parentheses? Yes, I think I did. Yeah, right. Yeah, okay. Okay, so part of the issue here, I think, is what we considered boreal in this case, with a winter temperature of -8. May not really be the kind of boreal we're looking for. I think the boreal we're looking for, this is not the boreal you were looking for. It's probably more along the lines of like maybe -15. Actually, let's go back here. So kind of in this neck of the woods. Yeah, let's try -15. Let's see, you were 8. Temperate forest. Boreal, here we go. But what was... we need to make sure we have the right temperature. So let's find like a -15. Here we go. And then temperature is 20. Wow, really? Okay. Maybe we just need to completely update all the values that we had here. That looks about right. That looks about right. That's about right. Humidity seems appropriate. Alright, let's give it a go. I have way too many windows open, obviously. Yes, that's the idea, Sithril. Yeah, so doesn't permafrost emerge when summer temps reach -1? It kind of depends, because if your winter temperatures were cold enough, you can still have some positive summer temperatures. Like in permafrost, keep in mind, there's like complete permafrost where the soil is completely frozen, and then you have partial permafrost too, so it's, you know, it's a range. Let's go ahead and run this, I guess. Everything explodes. Conifers are still lazy. Lazy conifers. Okay, what's going on? Okay. Alright, broadleaf nutrient is absolutely, definitely a limiting factor. That's weird. Why? Maybe the base growth rate has something to do with it. I would think conifers would be doing way better under the circumstances. 23 fires. I don't care about grass. mineral nutrients are absolutely an issue here. That's so weird. In both of these cases, nutrients are going to be the constraint. And yet, what was our base growth rate? Let's see. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, we may have been a little austere with our base growth rate, maybe? Yeah. Let's maybe ease off a little bit. Although, bonding sunlight multiplier. Oh, I'm gonna burn out. Watch. Hold on. 500 years should be more than enough. Have some variation. Why is it so... Yeah, they are converging now. Maybe an Allen burger. Let's see. Does it really take that long? There was a fire so terrible, it reset the clock. Two fires that were so terrible, they practically reset the clock. I feel like they still converge too much. Yeah, so the issue here is our conifers just never get going. Let me see something real quick. Oh. Okay. What biome are we in? Boreal forest. Okay, so I guess we were just, for some reason, we had some artifact where we were a little too austere on our conifers. So now conifers are dominating in our coniferous forests. Broadleafs exist at about the rate we would want them to, which is kind of in the background. It still takes 500 seasons to get to that point, though. Yeah. Oh, interesting. When we had a really nasty fire, you can see broadleafs kind of had a chance to try and make it back again. Well, not really. Not very much. Okay, so let's see what our temperate forests look like. If we have the same result, then that's going to be problematic because we want broadleafs to actually be... No, okay, so now conifers are kicking the ass of... Yeah, fuck. Now conifers are just too powerful. So this is actually a bit more in line with what we'd want, right? So we have a mixed forest here. After about 500 iterations. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do, Sithril. I'm gonna put in some kind of inferred values ahead of time based on conditions. Well, sometimes there's just catastrophic fires. That's fine. I mean, this is like, some of these are 1,000-year fires. A lot of these are 100-year fires. Oh, well, that's weird. It's odd, is why would, yeah. It's probably what happened. Yeah, I mean, it worked. It generally is working the way we want it to. And keep in mind, like, there isn't actually a stable state that we ever want. That's not the point, right? Because you never have a stable state in nature. You constantly have things being kicked around, and you have a dominant species at a given moment, and then you have some turnover. What was I looking for in this case? I was interested in. Oh yeah, I was interested in the log. Huh. Where are we? We're in temperate, right? I wonder if maybe just sufficient cold snaps would depress kind of her base growth at just 0.4 is not that much different than 0.3. Let's see. I feel like I need to do something about shrubs. Oh, cool. That is a cool dude. Yeah, you can see that kind of continental swoosh. Yeah, okay. What's up? Okay. I'll have to come back later, guys. And this is starting to look better. Let me just check. Give me 2 minutes just to finalize something.
Here, Maya, you want to play Paw Patrol?
Oh, the kitty's here, the girls are here. Hey, you want to play any Breath of the Wild in a bit? Or Animal Crossing? No? No? Okay.
Could I? Yeah. Yes. I do want to play. Bubba wants to play too. He's a rubber
Okay,
purdy.
you can play on your computer for now. Maya?
Okay. Let me just check Boreal Forests real quick.
My kitty. My kitty.
Oh, she's not being bad.
No, she's not.
She's just meowing.
Don't poke her.
Wait. What's that?
Cool that we actually have some divergence
Want to
in
play
canopy.
Paw Patrol?
Is she nice?
Is actually what you would expect in boreal conditions. Is
Maybe she wants it.
weird. Alright, we'll have to sort this out later. Just run it one more time.
We can do computers.
Wait, why is she meowing at me?
Here, you can play on your computer, Ellie.
You said Breath of the Wild?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll play in a minute.
Why did you meow
Maya,
at me?
please stop. Oh, God.
Just, you can go, it's fine.
She's going to follow me. Maya, you can play Paw Patrol.
Okay, anyway, I'll come back to this in a bit. I'll see you guys.